what are some ways that you guys think that the L1 should continue evolving in order to make the L2 world continue to be to progress as smoothly as possible?
I will put two things. One is fast finality, which is not exactly a new topic, but I think it will secure much more the rollups. It will be much better for everybody. And maybe the technology as well could be reused in the layer 2. All the progresses on fast finality on the layer 1 can be very interesting for the layer 2. And on a totally different level, I will put at the EVM, I think it's important linked to actually account abstraction to add some cryptography primitives. There are a lot of EIP around that will allow many more signature schemes or many more complicated cryptography at the account abstraction level.
I think there's a number of areas that are awesome to see. I'm glad. I appreciate that finality was the first call out, just because I think that's a really exciting one. It's probably the most obvious one probably to people that kind of is exciting is expanded data capacity, and obviously we have our kind of dream final state of full dank sharding and kind of a bunch of interesting work going on in pure DAS, which is sort of relatively new to the discussion as sort of another intermediate state. And then I think the last area I would call out, and I think one that's sort of probably more useful to optimistic rollups than to ZK rollups, although I think incredibly useful in general, is censorship resistance. In that right now Ethereum has relatively weak censorship resistance guarantees, and there's kind of between inclusion lists and personally I'm kind of pretty excited and interested in embedded PDS and kind of various things which would get Ethereum to a much harder guarantee there.
I would add here ossification. I think it's important that in order to build, if we want to build really L2s that are decentralized, we need L1 to be decentralized. And for that, I think that L1 should be ossified. I know that this is not something that happened from one day on the other. Ethereum is not finished yet, and there is still a lot of things to do before doing ossification, but something that's really important to happen at some point.
One thing, if I could request or shape from a layer 1 is I think the biggest challenge of blockchains is around the area of, let's call it broadness, or I just prefer the term broadness to decentralization because I don't like double negation. So decentralization means not centralized, so centralized bad, decentralized good. So I prefer the term broadness. So blockchains are ultimately all about broadness, maximal broadness, so that there's a very wide basis. It's related a little bit to what Jordi spoke about, censorship resistance, and it's a constant battle because there are natural forces and incentives that tend to centralization, and then what we need from the layer 1 of Ethereum is, I think, things related to tokenomics and incentives that would just keep on broadening all the time the base of operators and stakeholders in a way. Now, it's a very hard challenge because there will always be counter forces of centralization. But the one thing that should be best done, it would be focusing on that, and then compatibility with, by the EVM being the first Turing complete machine, it already allows all of this, this whole family of L2s is all because of Vitalik, your vision of like a single Turing complete machine. So if the one thing I would try as much to push forward from the layer 1 is the broadness, and it's related to the incentives and tokenomics. I don't know how to change it in a way, but I would, so that it, a larger part of humanity has a stake in it, and it's ever more broad, and at some point maybe we solve proof of humanity so that people can actually, you know, we'll get closer to one individual, one vote, or have elements of that without relying on nation states. So that would be the area I'd like.
Amazing. So I saw Brian from Risc Zero just joined, and I feel like Risc Zero is another one of these newer members to the family that a lot of people have probably not yet had a chance to hear about. So maybe and talk about what are you guys up to, and what are you guys looking forward to being up to in 2024?
Yeah, I mean, I can also sort of answer that last question. And I think, something that would be really useful from our perspective is just to make it easier to, to integrate zero knowledge proofs onto the L1 in any manner. So if that looks like GROS 16 precompiles, or, even precompiles that support more Stark-like systems, that would be great. And then obviously, dank sharding is going to be huge, I think, for all of us. But yeah, what we're focused on right now is really getting our verifier onto mainnet so that people can use zero knowledge proofs produced by our system on Ethereum proper. Yeah.